Well, they're pretty even each end, just a bit too big. And that's pretty much what we're aiming for. 175.6. A bit. Right, I'm just doing a little pre-bending job before we roll these pieces of mesh up. This is a little folder that I made up ages ago, fairly sturdy to fold fairly thick, well, 10 gauge aluminium or 1/8 of an inch, 3mm, only so long. By the by, really, I'm just using it to just put a little bend right at the end of these things, because when you roll things, the rolls won't bend at the very end of the piece that you're working with. It always leaves a little flat there, so I'm putting a little bend across the first full row of holes. It's tiny, just, I hope that's enough. I don't know for sure. Last bunch I didn't bother doing it in the folder, but I think this will help. And then we do another little pre-forming job in the fly press using a solid top punch and just a big chunk of rubber in the bottom. And that just forms that up, just to start, because yeah, the rolls won't do it, it will leave a flat at the end. I mean, you could roll a whole thing like this, but you'd come to a point where you've got nowhere for the metal to come when it's curled over here and here. So we're just doing a pre-bending job. And I'm just eyeing it up, trying to keep it straight so that I'm not putting this bend in at an angle to the piece. I'm just looking at the holes across the edge of this piece and trying to use that to line it up. And I've done one end a lot more than the other. Don't know if that matters terribly, but it'd be nice if everything was the same. Although we've got this little set of bending rolls to roll these little strainers. This is Well, I'm presuming it's made in China. Looked it up online, and the people who were doing the job actually bought it for us. Fairly simple affair. The handle turns the two bottom rolls, which are geared together, so they both turn at the same time. And then the adjusting knobs on top raise and lower the middle roller. So these would be pyramid rolls. We had a set of larger rolls, which we had to get rid of when we moved, and they were, I think you'd call them initial pinch rolls, where the top roll here was immediately above this one, and they were they geared together? Oh my gosh, I'm not sure now which ones were geared, but because this could be clamped onto that, as you turned the handle and fed your work through, it grabbed hold of the metal and took it through, and then you raised and lowered the back roll at the bottom to adjust your bend. This is a bit more tricky because this will not pinch the work, but it's, yeah, it does work. It does do the job that we need it to do. So let's have a little look at it. So first job is to wind the adjusting screws back to their starting position for this job. And I've put just a little drilled dot in each handle, each knob, so we can tell where it's at. And we can do 2 of these at a time. Okay, pre-bend is different on these ones. We've got one a bit more similar. Okay. I need to clamp it down onto the bench. There's nothing, this is just built onto a piece of box section, which is a nice simple design, and then that allows us to clamp it to the bench, stop it moving while we're using it. We've done that to start with. And let's see if this will. Yes, these need a bit of a push to get them started. So that's just a slight roll to start, a slight bend to start with. You can't do much at a time. You can't just go for it. You just need to do it bit by bit. So just winding these in half a turn at a time. Roll it back again, and it doesn't want to go. Here we go. Another half a turn. Back the other way. Oops. Right, it's getting close. 'Cause this last, not quite half a turn. Should get us where we need to be. And the ends of these pieces are actually overlapping. Well, let's have a look. Just slide the end off. Well, that's not too terrible. That's pretty close. I might just give these another roll and try and even it out a bit. Not bad. So, 2 down. I've got 25 here on the cut up ready. I only need 20, but I thought just in case I mess some up, I've got some spares. And with the tubes rolled up, the next stage is to put the caps on, and they hold the ends together so that they can be welded. The tiniest little delicate welds I've ever had to do, and I found it quite tricky. I'm not a welder. I do a bit of welding, and I can manage to get done what I need to get done, but this was tricky. There's some very nice ones here, which are nice and silver, just there. That one and that one are quite nice, and then there's some others which are a bit darker. It's possibly indicative of hanging around a bit too long, getting it a little bit too hot. So easy to burn through on this, and it's really important to get the size of the piece right before you roll it, so that when the things come together, the two ends meet with no gaps. And I don't know if we had a little bit of a gap here, just there, or whether it was the torch not quite aimed properly, but yeah, melted away, get a blob on both sides of the job. And once that happens, it's really hard to bridge that gap. I tried a couple of times and it is really, really tricky, or at least I found it to be. Managed to bridge the gap on this one, but it is so scruffy. You get a big lumpy weld across there, and it has to be ground down smooth, and it just looks wrong and untidy. So that one didn't go anywhere. Earlier attempts, my practice runs at this job. Oh, there's one. Oh dear. Yeah, and similar on that one. So yeah, in the end, when I was kind of getting the hang of it, I think I was running at about 18 amps 1/16 tungsten in the torch, and no, 1mm tungsten in the torch. These just had to be fuse welds, what do they call them, autogenous welds. Didn't really want to have to try and add any filler. When it came to welding the tubes to the ends properly, again mostly autogenous welds, and on odd occasions I would add a bit of filler, and the filler was only 1mm wire as well. So yeah, really tricky little job. Quite happy with it in the end. A little bit of a burn everywhere, but that all brushed off and looks okay in the end. So yeah, quite happy with that, but tricky, at least for somebody without the experience like me.